Please stop expecting Kent to come back home for family events. Today is my younger brother's wedding, and his fiancée, Grace, just ran up to me. Her voice was so loud, everyone could hear it. It felt like a knife cutting through me. I was happy for my brother, but now I stood there, humiliated in front of everyone. Her words hit me deeply, spreading pain through my chest. The happy, warm atmosphere of the wedding suddenly felt cold, and silence filled the room. Was I the only one feeling this way? Or were the other guests judging me too? Their cold stares made me feel like I didn't belong. Grace's sharp eyes seemed to say, "You have no place here." I wanted to speak up, to defend myself, but the words wouldn't come. I felt overwhelmed by anger, sadness, and frustration all at once. My breath felt tight, and my legs started shaking. Deep down, I started to wonder if Grace was right. Had I leaned on Kent too much? Over the years, I depended on him more than I realized. Maybe I was a burden. But even if that was true, Grace didn't have to say it like this. Her words were meant to put me in my place. "I understand," I said finally. The words didn't even sound like my own. My voice was quiet and rough, drained of energy. I stood up, trying to keep calm, even though I was falling apart inside. I wanted to stay for the ceremony, but I couldn't. I didn't want to ruin Kent's happy day with my presence. I walked to the door, feeling like I was leaving part of my life behind. Just as I reached for the handle, there was a loud crash behind me. I turned and saw that a chair had fallen over. My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old, and I often wonder how different things might have been if that accident hadn't happened. When I was 11 and Kent was 8, we lost our parents. They were coming back from a weekend trip when the accident happened. By the time we got to the hospital, it was too late, they were gone. The world felt silent after that. I didn't know how to deal with the pain. The one clear memory I have is holding Kent's small, shaking hand. After that, we went to live in a children's home. The staff at the children's home were kind, and we quickly made friends with the other kids. But no matter how familiar the place became, there was always an empty feeling inside me. I wanted to see Kent smile, so I promised myself I wouldn't cry in front of him. I thought if I cried, he would feel sad too. Being his big sister gave me a reason to keep going. Instead of dealing with my own grief, I focused on taking care of Kent. Supporting him became my purpose. When I turned 18, I had to leave the children's home. There were programs to help us go to college, but I didn't take advantage of them. If anyone was going to college, it had to be Kent. I started working during the day and took night classes at a vocational school, studying event planning. I had a small dream of starting my own business, but that felt far away. My main goal was to support Kent. I even took out loans to make sure Kent could attend college. He got a scholarship, but I didn't want him to stress about money. While I worked, Kent studied hard. Seeing his dedication motivated me to keep going. Kent didn't let me down, he graduated and got a job at a big company. When I heard the news, I cried. All the hard work, the struggles, and the debt had been worth it just to see him happy. After he started his job, Kent began sending me $1,500 a month. I wanted to tell him to keep the money for himself, but his message stopped me. "Sis, you did everything for me. Not giving something back would feel wrong. Please accept this." Reading those words, I cried again. I was touched that he appreciated my sacrifices, but it also made me feel like I couldn't keep depending on him. So, I quietly started saving the money. I wanted to return it to him someday if he ever needed it. Using the skills I learned in school, I started a small event planning business. At first, I worked alone, but over time, the business grew, and I got busier. Even though Kent had a demanding job, he started helping me on weekends. One day, Kent told me he had started dating someone named Grace. She worked at a partner company, and he seemed really happy. Seeing his excitement made me happy too. A year later, Kent told me he was planning to marry her. We were walking home after dinner when he shared the news. I congratulated him with a smile, but inside, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Was it loneliness? The fear of losing him? I couldn't quite figure it out. Grace seemed like a good person, she made Kent happy, and when we met, she was polite and kind. But there was something about her smiles that felt distant. That feeling became stronger when I met Grace's family for a pre-wedding dinner. We gathered at a fancy Japanese restaurant. Grace's family was sophisticated and polite, but there was an air of subtle judgment. "Kay, you've come so far, growing up in a children's home. I mean, how admirable." The words seemed harmless, but the tone stung. Her friendly smile didn't match the judgment in her eyes. Kent responded politely, saying, "I wouldn't have come this far without my sister," but his voice was tense. He usually spoke proudly about our past, but here, it felt like he was holding back. I wanted to speak up, but I didn't want to ruin the evening for Kent. After dinner, he told me not to worry, but I could tell he was hurt too. He was doing his best to make everything work, and I wanted him to be happy above all else. Despite my uneasy feelings, I tried to connect with Grace as the wedding planning continued. We worked on guest lists, picked dresses, and spent time together. Grace was always polite, but her manner felt cold. Then one day, she asked me a question that hit like a stone: "Is Kent still sending you money?" Before I could answer, she added, "Honestly, I think it's a bit much. Now that we're getting married, our finances should come first." Her words left me speechless. I knew Grace wasn't entirely wrong. She didn't understand that to Kent, the money was more than just repayment, it was a symbol of everything we'd been through together. But she had a point. It was probably time to set boundaries. That night, I decided to talk to Kent. "Grace doesn't seem too happy about the money, does she?" I asked gently. "I figured she'd bring it up," Kent replied, looking resigned but firm. "Maybe it's time to stop," I said, my heart aching as I forced the words out. "You have a family to focus on now." "I'm not stopping, Sarah," he said firmly. "You've done so much for me. I can't just quit now." His words brought tears to my eyes, but I didn't let him see. "All right, Kent. I understand." I knew forcing him to stop would only make him more determined. For now, I decided to let him make his own choice. The wedding day finally arrived, and I did everything I could to support Kent and Grace's happiness. Kent's happiness had always been my top priority, but deep down, I still felt uneasy. Would Grace truly support him the way he needed? The ceremony went smoothly, and seeing Kent smile brought me a sense of peace. It felt like all my sacrifices had been worth it. But during the reception, something unexpected happened. "Please stop coming to visit Kent," Grace said sharply. Her words cut through me like a knife. The room went silent, and I could feel everyone's eyes on me. I stood there, stunned, my face pale and my heart sinking. Grace's gaze was cold and sharp, as if she were telling me I didn't belong. I wanted to speak up, to defend myself, but no words came. My throat tightened with anger, sadness, and humiliation. Finally, I managed to say the only thing I could: "I understand." My voice sounded distant, like it wasn't even mine. I tried to keep my composure and leave quietly without causing a scene. Just as I reached for the door, a loud crash echoed behind me. I turned around to see Kent standing, his face filled with anger. "Grace, do you even know what you just said?" he demanded. Grace looked startled, but Kent didn't let up. "You don't know anything about what she's done for me," he said, his voice low but filled with rage. "Without my sister, I wouldn't be here today. She sacrificed everything to make my dreams possible." Kent's voice rang out, strong and clear, silencing the entire room. No one dared to interrupt. "I send her money every month, because it's the least I can do for what she's given up for me. That's not charity, it's respect and gratitude." Grace stood frozen, shock and fear in her eyes, as murmurs spread through the guests. "I've known Sarah my whole life," one of my relatives said. "She's always put others before herself." One by one, family and friends began speaking up in my defense. "She helped Kent through so much. We all know how much she's done for this family." Grace's face turned pale as the voices of support for me grew louder. Then, one of Kent's colleagues stepped forward. "Honestly, Grace can be difficult at work. She's known for her sharp tongue," the colleague said. Another colleague joined in. "It's true, she can be overly harsh, always pushing others down." Slowly, they revealed sides of Grace I hadn't known. With each comment, Grace's face grew even paler as she realized that the respect she thought she'd earned was slipping away. Just then, the doors opened, and a man entered the room. He was impeccably dressed and carried himself with quiet confidence. "My apologies for being late. Mr. Jameson, welcome," someone said. Mr. Jameson was a prominent figure, a senior manager from a major business partner of Grace's family's company. "Is something the matter here?" he asked, his calm tone making the tension in the room even sharper. "Oh no, Mr. Jameson, just a family misunderstanding," Grace's father replied quickly. "I see," Mr. Jameson said, though his eyes told me he sensed more than he let on. He turned to me. "You must be Sarah. I've heard impressive things about your event planning company." "Thank you, Mr. Jameson," I replied, surprised he knew about my work. Grace's father stepped in. "Mr. Jameson, Sarah is a foster home graduate. I'm sure we'll want to evaluate partnerships with that in mind." "Actually," Mr. Jameson said, his voice steady, "I grew up in foster care myself." The room fell silent, and Grace's father's face went pale. "I've always respected those who push through adversity," Mr. Jameson said. "Sarah's work reflects that spirit. At our company, we choose partners based on merit, not background. Excluding someone because of their past would go against our values." His words filled me with pride and gratitude. "Sarah's been a pillar for our community," one of the guests added. Grace's words were out of line. "I agree," Kent said firmly. "Our family deserves better." Then he turned to Grace and spoke with finality. "I can't marry someone who doesn't respect my family." Grace looked stricken, but she couldn't argue. Kent walked over and hugged me tightly. "Thank you, Sarah, for everything." "Thank you, Kent. I'll always be here for you," I replied. That moment marked a new beginning. Over time, my business flourished. Thanks in part to Mr. Jameson's support, I became known for my dedication and creativity in event planning. Kent eventually became my business partner, helping us take on exciting new challenges. "We've come so far, Sarah," Kent said one day. "We have," I replied, "and I'm grateful for every step." In the end, our bond only grew stronger. Together, we built a life full of support, trust, and new opportunities. Side by side, we continued moving forward, creating a brighter future together.